Everyone. Today is June the 9th, 2015. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Springfield Township Board of Trustees meeting. Let's start with the roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Byrne?
Present.
Mr. Onwell?
Present.
Ms. McFarland?
Present.
All trustees are present.
And I'd like Mike to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mike Gould, thank you very much. Our new road supervisor. Okay, tonight we're going to begin a series of 2 meetings, and those meetings consist, and this is our first one, it's a public hearing that we're going to initially start with first, and it's regarding the solid waste contractual proposal. And many of you know that we have had this on our agenda. It's been a point of discussion for quite a few months. So there's been a lot of research done, a lot of work has been done to evaluate the waste proposal, and now we're ready to present it to our community. We'd like to have your thoughts and your comments as you feel. Okay, and I'd like to turn it over to Chris. Chris is going to give us an overview of the proposal, and we'll move on from there. So, Chris, Mr. Gilbert, if you can begin the proposal and the discussion for us, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland. As the board remembers, and maybe somebody in the public or watching on television remembers, we had a meeting several months ago in regards to the board's decision to even enter into this process and issue a joint RFP to waste haulers with the communities of Colerain Township and Ross Township to determine whether we should go down this path in the first place to see if contracting with a single waste hauler on behalf of township residents was something that we would want to do. Ultimately, I think at the end of that first public hearing, it was determined that it seemed like there was support to at least pursue the process and determine whether it would be viable to do so. And we issued the RFP in conjunction with Hamilton County Solid Waste, Ross Township, and Colerain Township, and the bids were received on May 15th. And this evening, I'm going to briefly go through what the outline of the RFP was, and then obviously at the end what the results of the RFP were, and leave it up to the board, obviously, and the public to determine whether we should enter into this contract or not. As shown in the last public hearing, we have the authority to do this under Section 505.27 of the Ohio Revised Code. Basically, the benefits to enter into a solid waste proposal with a particular waste hauler on behalf of residents provides the community with potentially lower cost, greater accountability over surcharges and fees. It increases community recycling and gives greater accountability to the residents as it relates to the waste hauler. Some of the negatives are that it prevents residents from choosing their own waste hauler. You cannot opt out unless under very specific circumstances. And it discontinuance of specific agreements between haulers and residents, and it limits, in this particular case, limits bulk items to 1 item per month. The townships that were interested, obviously on the left, it shows various townships that were thinking about the idea, but only the ones that moved forward with the RFP were Colerain, Ross, and obviously here, us, was Springfield Township. These are average rates. Currently, residents of Springfield Township are paying $20.79 a month for just garbage, and an additional $2.50 a month to add recycling services on top of that. Again, these are just average rates, and that excludes surcharges and other fees that the particular waste hauler may be charging. Again, this RP included garbage, recycling, yard waste, and bulk items. The options and the bidding specifications that we had issued give several different options. One is an unlimited option, which provides a recycling container to every household. That's a 65-gallon recycling container. So every option in this particular RFP allowed for or will provide a 65-gallon recycling container to every household. Additionally, the unlimited base bid price is just that, unlimited garbage service plus recycling. So that includes unlimited garbage. You can put out as much garbage as you want. It includes a recycling container as well as it includes one bulk item a month. There is a discounted option which allows for one can, so everything you can fit into one can, which will be provided by the waste hauler, and that is a 96-gallon waste container, and that limited option includes everything you can put in that container, plus the recycling, and then one bulk item per month. It does provide backyard service for disabled under ADA eligibility, and it also provides, and that's free of charge. If someone wanted it and they weren't ADA eligible, then it would be an additional cost. Again, bulk item is limited to once a month. The hours are restricted from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for collection. The billing will work the same way, that the waste hauler will bill the residents directly. No change in that regard to how residents are billed currently. It'll be done on a quarterly basis. There are some exemptions to individuals that can potentially opt out. Obviously, units 5 or more are not included in this. This is restricted to single family and multifamily 4 units or less. The base fee is fixed, and there are no additional surcharges that apply in the base fee. There is a formula by which we allow the waste hauler to do fuel cost adjustments. Unlike now, where there really is no formula by which the residents have any control over how that's determined. In the bid specifications, there is a formula by which the waste hauler will be required to adhere to in determining fuel cost adjustments. It is a contract term, so it is a 5-year contract, and we priced out, the waste hauler is required to price out each individual year separately so that we know in any given year what the price will be. Recyclables, again, are, if anyone recycles now, it's the same recyclable material is permitted. I think we all know what the benefits of recycling are to the environment. Now let's get to really why we're here, the bid results. 3 companies provided bids: Rumpke, Bestaway, and Republic. The lowest bidder was Rumpke, which I believe the majority of residents currently utilize now. And I apologize, I know this is difficult to see. But the base unlimited bid price, which included unlimited garbage and a 65-gallon recycling cart, and includes one bulk item a month, for the 2016-2017 year, the base bid amounted to $16.20 a month. That reflects a $7.09 reduction over the current average price that individual Springfield Township is paying for waste and recycling, which amounts to about $85 a year savings. The savings get greater than that if someone were to choose the limited service, which means they would be provided a 95-gallon garbage can and the 65-gallon recycling can, and the limited service, again, is limited to everything that resident could fit within that garbage can and the recycling container, and that price is $12.95 a month, which, again, is significantly cheaper than what residents are currently paying on average. If your resident in the unlimited option wanted to rent a 96-gallon waste cart from the waste hauler, that would be an additional $2.50 a month. However, if the resident chooses the limited service, that garbage container is included within that $12.95 price. And they are limited, again, to what they can fit within that 95-gallon container. What are the next steps? We will have a second public hearing exactly like the one this evening on July 14th at the next regular board meeting of the trustees. And the Board of Trustees shall make a decision no later than August 15th to be responsive to the bid specifications to the waste haulers. And then if awarded, the contract would be scheduled to start in April of 2016. So that concludes the presentation. Pretty straightforward. If there's any additional questions, the board, obviously, we can do that.
Thank you, Chris. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the presentation thus far and the information that's been shared? Any questions? Okay. Do you have any questions, Mr. Connerall?
The only thing I would say, when we had the first public meeting, there were a number of people that came here and expressed there was a lot of public support for the recycling portion of this bid, and that we anticipate that the public recycling, the amount of waste that will go into the recycling stream will go up significantly, because as it currently stands, you have to pay extra to have Rumpke, do recycling for you. So this ought to significantly increase the recycling, which will be good for the community and the environment. And at the same time, I think it's a win, because we're all going to see a reduction in our waste, garbage bills. Whether you're, get the unlimited service or you get the limited, both ways you're going to get free recycling as part of it, and it's going to be significantly less than what we're paying now.
Mr. Hunterlaw, I think what solid waste will tell you is that right now Springfield Township is about 8 or 9% in terms of recycling as compared to the amount of waste tonnage that residents produce. Communities that contract with a waste hauler and provide recycling as part of that contract generally see recycling increase to almost 30%.
That's a huge, huge savings.
Yes, and I think one thing, and I was remiss in indicating, again, this is a 5-year contract. The first year is $1,620. The second year, the price goes to $1,650. The third year would be $1,685. The fourth would be $1,720, and the last and final year would be $1,755, and that is for the unlimited. And in the limited service, it goes from $12.95 in the first year to $14 in the last year. Again, still a savings even in the final year of the contract.
Still less than we're paying now.
Significantly less. The other thing, I think, the biggest difference is right now you get a little red bin, and now you're going to have a big can to fill with recycling, and a lot of people, once their little bins filled up, they end up throwing it in the garbage, and people that don't recycle just throw everything in the garbage. When you have a can there that you can put recycling in, obviously it's going to make people recycle significantly more.
Yeah, from personal experience, I can tell you, the family of 4 with 2 small kids, we generate quite a bit of garbage a week, not to mention yard waste. I started recycling just recently, got a 65-gallon recycling container and a 95-gallon garbage container. I could get away with the limited service, 1 can for garbage and the recycling. I could get away with that being a family of 4. So,
Because so much more of
Because
what
I-
was waste is now going to
almost
recycling.
60% of the garbage that I used to throw away is actually recyclable, that now I recycle instead of throwing away.
The other thing I think, and some citizens had concerns as well, is what about if they want to put things here in our recycle bin here, that will still be there. We will minimize the number of containers. Is that not correct?
I think obviously that would be a board decision, but I would anticipate that we would eliminate some of those as they would be not as necessary as they are now. I would say we go down to 1, maybe 2 at the most.
Okay. Initially when this proposal, when we started the discussions, I wasn't real sure where I wanted to be. I was wanting to make sure that whatever the outcome was, that it was going to save our citizens money and not just $3 or $4. And I'm happy to see that it's reflecting about a $7.09 reduction. And the other thing that I think is very important as well is that there are no additional surcharges.
Correct.
And that's a benefit for the residents as well. And for some individuals where there's only perhaps 1 or 2 individuals in the house, it's going to be a cost savings for them as well, because there's just 1 bin, big gallon bin, and then a recycle container as well. So those are all pluses and benefits for the citizens as far as I'm concerned.
Right. The default program will be the unlimited. If anyone wants a limited, they would have to select that as their service.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Now, we're going to come out of our public hearing and move on to the rest of our agenda, approval of minutes. We had a regular meeting on April the 14th, 2015. Need a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes
Aye.
approved.
Next, Mr. Burning, fiscal officer, can we have your financial report, please?
Yes, you may.
I apologize.
I'm here. For the month ending 5/31/2015, the township expenditures were $1,615,330.16, and receipts were $298,720.24. The ending cash balance is $17,913,495.86. Man, that's a mouthful. Including obligations for expenditures, payrolls, regular operating costs, ongoing capital improvement projects, and investment. What I need is a motion to approve the receipts, warrants, payroll expenditures updated in current revenue reports for the period ending 5/31/2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And just for everyone in the audience and listening, that the financial reports are available for viewing at the offices here at the Administration Building weekdays during regular business hours. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Burney. Next, we have our departmental action and discussion items report. Mr. Henningcamp.
Thank you, Ms. McFarland. Have several action items. This is the time of year that annually the county engineer will inform us that the 20% distribution fund program applications are being accepted. This is a program that is made available by the county engineer, where they take a portion of the revenues that they receive from, I think it's generated from license plate taxes paid and generation that goes to the county engineer, and then they make what they call 20% of their total available and distribute it throughout the townships in the county based on, sort of that per capita of which each township does. And then the township makes applications for what they would utilize this money for. The total amount available to the township is $23,218. Traditionally, what we have used this funds for over the years is for what we call our asphalt rejuvenation program. And what this is this is the oil, if we've recently repaved a series of streets, within 2 or 3 years, you go back and you put what sometimes is known as reclamite or an asphalt rejuvenation program back into that fairly new street, and it prolongs the life of that street. So that would be my recommendation again this year, with the additional caveat that we also apply for some flexibility to potentially use this money for some community development block grant match money as well. We have a project where we were awarded about $100,000. In fact, it's one of the items right here on the agenda for Blue Hill. The project came in roughly right at that amount, so there's a possibility we won't need to use some more of that money to finish this project. But if we do get into the contingency, it could be that we do. So I would just look for a motion that we move forward with our application to be used to apply the asphalt rejuvenation and/or to provide the additional funding for community development block grant funding, or actually match funding.
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Kind of getting to that, and I'll skip around a little bit on the agenda. The next item is the project that I was referring to, and we did have a bid opening for a community development block grant project that, as I mentioned, we were awarded $100,000 for a project in Blue Hill. The low estimate, the low bidder was J.K. Muir in the amount of $111,072, and that is the lower bidder. There were just two bidders. The second bidder was Barrett Paving at $119,128.80. Both of those bids include a 10% contingency, which is standard in any road project. So as I said, it's entirely possible it might not come in at that top amount if we don't use any of the contingency. But if we do, then we'd be able to use the 20%, some of the 20% funding to make up the difference. So in this particular case, it would be my recommendation that we award the bid for the Blue Hill Shadow Ridge Thin Overlay Project to J.K. Muir, contingent on final review by our service director, law director, and myself.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
The next item I have is something that Mike Gould and I talked about this yesterday, and I know, I think it was a couple of years ago where the board, we had a meeting with residents in the Finneytown area about Brentwood Park. We were anticipating, sort of what the long-term use was going to be for that park, and also anticipating a major MSD project that was going to come through pretty much right down the center of that park and really disrupt its use for any practical purposes. And I thought we did it then, but maybe we didn't. I tried to look back through the minutes, but Mike's suggestion is that we formally post that park as closed right now. That construction is in full swing right now, and there's really not much use in the park. There's no active fields there anyway. It's pretty much a passive park. But I think given the type of construction that's going on with that MSD project, probably behooves us to post it officially as park closed, and maybe try to indicate such at the three openings to the park. I know there's one that you mentioned, actually, MSD is kind of using a little bit, but
There's entrances to the park at Mockingbird, Melody, and also Madeline. And you have the main entrance for vehicles at Monsanto. So it boils down to basically just a safety issue for children and residents who live in the park. And you have construction equipment that's going in and out of there. There's numerous hazards. There's really nothing good for the kids to do there because the park can't be properly maintained. And so it just comes down to basically a safety issue.
Mike, how long would you anticipate that it would be closed? Do you have any idea?
I think what we discussed would be spring, and then we would evaluate where the project's at. Currently, an MSD can't give us a firm timeline on how projects go. They can say they may be finished with this area by October, and that could easily get pushed back to January, February, March. So posting it, that it'll be closed until spring, we'll evaluate the situation again and go from there.
Posting, you think the posting will be sufficient to keep people out of there?
We'd also talked about some orange fence, putting some orange fence in front of the entrances, and that we're going to post numerous signs.
I think the orange fence would help as well, enhance the posting, because,
it does. It's probably more of a visual and
Right.
clear. I mean, given the nature of the park, there's access through
backyards. almost.
individual backyards, I don't know, in the hundreds of different properties, so you're not really going to be able to, totally enclose it. And the hazards are mostly obvious, and MSD sort of has to, enclose the major hazards as they work along there as well. But, as Mike said, it's not a question, there's not really any active recreation back there. It's not ball fields or anything where, teams are participating or anything like
That's
that.
correct.
It's a very passive park, swing sets and, some picnic tables is about the extent. There is an area that used to exist where you could, play some ball. It's not formal where team ball would go on, but kind of pickup games, but that's really the extent of it. So we're not talking a major, hardship to anybody.
Can we remove the picnic tables and the swing sets, or move them away in such a way that no one would want to even get down there?
The picnic tables we could do, the swing sets may be a little bit more complicated.
Right, okay.
And just to be clear, we'll continue to mow. There's a buffer that we started between the park property and the residence property, so that way there's not high grass.
Okay.
And all those issues that can come along with that.
Okay. That would be good if we can move the tables, at least that would be
I
one
concur
message.
with Mike. It's reached a point where it's a safety issue at this point. And I think we had, at that meeting, if I remember, we had discussed that we would likely be doing that during the construction phase and maybe even permanently because of the low utilization of the park to begin with.
Okay.
But that's something, hold off to the future. So really just looking for a motion from the board to close that park, officially close that park until further notice.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Last action item I have is seeking approval from the board for 2 school resource officer agreements. This one with the Finneytown schools, the other with Mount Healthy. There's no change to these agreements, simply updating these for the upcoming 2015-16 school years. We did make some adjustment to them at the end of last year, so these agreements are consistent with those revisions. So just need a motion authorizing me to enter into those 2 agreements.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's for both of them, Mike?
Correct. Yeah, they are essentially identical other than the district. Just by way of discussion, wanted to, I think we talked about this at one of our work sessions and had the preliminary price on salt. I'm happy to report that that is now official. While it is more than last year, it's not as bad as what we had anticipated. Our salt, we participated with ODOT in what they call their summer fill salt contract, and the price per ton was $70.41. We were obligated to purchase 2,000 tons, so the total for our outlay will be $140,820. Given the commitment that we made this year in our budget towards what we were obligated from last year to purchase, what they call the winter refill, which was about 1,800 tons at $79.58, and now this, we're still roughly about $60,000 under what we had budgeted for this year. So a little bit of good news. I mean, still a lot of money for salt, and as I mentioned, higher than last year, but a lot lower than what a lot of communities have been able to get it for. And Hamilton County is not the lowest, but one of the lower communities. The bid is done county by county, with each county at a different price based on distribution costs. But I think all in all, pretty good, about 17% under what we had budgeted. So a little bit of good news on that front.
So we'll be full, pretty much full.
Pretty much. I mean, we'll be right about, what do you think, about 4,800? Yeah. So we'll be very close to,
Okay, that's,
and ready to go for,
I'm not saying a
I'll
word.
say a word. Under the personnel update, most of the activity, in fact, all of our activity was in our service department with our seasonal hires. Taylor Bovee is a seasonal hire effective May the 11th. Joe Durr, also May 11th. Lauren Bass on May 26th. Trevin Wilson on June the 8th. Michael Hartman, also on June the 8th. And of course, we talked about this last month with the promotion of Mike Gold as our new service director.
Welcome
Officially
to the table.
took his
Officially.
post on the 29th of May and did accept the resignation of Jim Ernst as a laborer in the service department, full-time labor, and his resignation date was May the 29th as well. Kim is involved in another event for Arts and Enrichment, or Arts Connect, rather, down in Wyoming right now. So just wanted to make the public and the board aware there's several events coming up. This Thursday at noon, back at the Grove, is the Puppets for Lunch event. And as I said, starting at noon, we have a return of our some concert series, the first on June the 25th, and that is a Taste of Germany with the Cincinnati Pops and Kolping Schützenfest, and that takes place, as I said, at 7. That concert is from 7 to 9, back near the Grove on the grounds back there. Another on July the 9th, an R&B concert, the group The Frontline, and then the final on July the 30th, where there's actually 3 different bands, local bands competing, and again, that one is also 7 to 9. The very popular Touch a Truck event is coming up in July on the 17th of July. That's a Friday, and that event takes place from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I know I didn't do that with the usual pizzazz that Kim does, but
But you didn't do bad.
didn't do bad.
No,
So-
you didn't do bad.
And that's all I have, unless the board has, I know you have copies of all the departmental activity reports, unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
We're now going to move on to our resolution. And our first resolution is Resolution Number 36, 2015, declaring nuisances pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.87 at various listed properties within Springfield Township and authorizing statutory actions necessary to abate these nuisances.
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Mr. Honolo?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next resolution is number 37, 2014, and this is a supplemental appropriations within the general fund. And this is in addition to the one we set up in 2014, isn't that correct? And now we're
These are supplemental.
supplementals, right, from 2014. Need a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
The next resolution is number 38, 2015, authorizing the sale of internet auction of vehicles forfeited to Springfield Township pursuant to Section 2981.05 of the Ohio Revised Code, which are no longer needed for public use, are obsolete or unfit for use in the Drug Abuse Reduction Task Force of the Police Department. Need a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next resolution is number 39, 2015, authorizing private sale of unneeded and unfit for use property in the Drug Abuse Reduction Task Force Department. Need a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next resolution is number 40, 2015, authorizing the private sale of junk motor vehicles which were titled to the township pursuant to Revised Code 4513.61 and Revised Code 4513.62, and which are not needed or unfit for use in any township department. Need a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Mr. Honalaw?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Ms. McFarland, I just want to ensure that this was read correctly into the record. On the agenda, it states Resolution 37, 2014. In fact, that's 37, 2015. The actual resolution is right. It's just the agenda listed as a different. I
That's
just want to
fine.
ensure that it was.
That's what I asked,
Okay.
yes. Okay, old business. Mr. Burning, do you have any old business?
No, I don't.
I do not.
I have one. I had a meeting with a legislative meeting with some of our Ohio State legislators, and had an opportunity during that meeting to kind of talk about Springfield Township, give them some history, enlighten them about the township. And there were a lot of great questions asked. And again, our township continues to be one of the most progressive townships. We work well together as a team, and they were very, very impressed with some of our outcomes as well. So we also had our governor's regional liaison person at that meeting as well. So all of them have taken notes on what we do in other communities that were represented there. And so it was just an honor to be able to share and give update about what we're doing here in Springfield Township. New business. Any-
The only thing I wanted to do was welcome Rob and Mike to their new posts. Rob, the police chief, and Mike as a service director in the township. After long tenures from your past, you guys worked really hard to get where you are, and we appreciate all your hard work, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great. Now we have time on our agenda for citizens' participation. This is the time when you have an opportunity, if you would like to ask us any questions or to share some information that you think would be noteworthy. And I would ask, if you do have information, if you would step to the podium, and those individuals who are in the audience, if you could abstain from any discussion so that we could hear what the person at the podium is stating. We need you to also state your name and your address as well. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come to the podium and ask us any questions? Yes?
Vlasta Molak, 8987 Cotillion Drive, 45231. I've been a resident of Finneytown in the same house 33 years, last April. Raised 3 kids who went to Finneytown schools. One had gotten an award with the Hall of Fame together with the fire chief here. One is senior attorney with a senior partner with the prominent Ohio firm representing major manufacturers in Ohio. And one got a scholarship, presidential scholarship, totally free education at the Miami University. So my children have done very well here in Finneytown. 6 years ago today, I started an experiment in sustainable living off the grid. What it means that I don't have any utility bills. What it means that I collect my rainwater, I use solar lamps, and in winter I use wood for heating. I have no use for your garbage services because I recycle everything and compost the rest. And I'm slowly reforming my house to be as comfortable off the grid as it was when it was on the grid. About 3 years ago, somebody apparently doesn't like difference, somebody who does not fit into the conventional rules and had decided to harass me. So I had gotten 3 times the Hamilton County Health Department coming after me, and I had to explain to them that I don't live in a rat hole and that I still wash rainwater and that there is no health problem associated with my living off the grid, either inside my house or outside. So it stopped. However, since I cut my grass with a hand mower, because I have now gotten very close to 0 CO2 emissions from fossil fuels in my personal life, because I also had given up driving my Honda Civic Hybrid that gets 50 miles per gallon. I bike and I walk everywhere, and occasionally take bus because I don't like biking up the Winton Hill. As last year, I was here last year on July 8th to report theft of my building materials, which I was going to use to replace part of my leaking roof so that I could collect the solar heat during the winter and circulate it through the house. Your employee had trespassed in my property with a closed gate and had taken those building materials, and I have a list here which I didn't give you then, but this is the list of materials which were taken away and which I do need because I want to finalize my off-the-grid living, and I'll have a group of people coming in mid-August to see how I'm transforming my house to be 0 CO2 emissions and as comfortable as other houses. I had urged you to return those materials, but clearly nothing had happened in these 11 months. Also, my trees at the time, it was not only trespassing and stealing my building materials in my backyard, but also mowing my grass and also mowing over 5 seedling trees, killing them, and scaring my dog. And I told you to leave me alone because I'm experimenting. I mow my front yard, but I choose not to mow my backyard, which doesn't bother anybody, doesn't bother my neighbors. They know what I'm doing, and they sometimes envy me because I don't have any utility bills. So it gives me money to make exotic trips. Like next September, I'll be going again to Europe, Israel, India, and Nepal to help with sustainable rebuilding of Nepal that is now devastated by earthquake, and we'll be bringing some expertise to make safer housing there. Anyway, yesterday I found a notice at my door that my house has been announced as a nuisance. And my neighbor was supposed to come here, but she's probably still late. She works. To explain to you that, after living 33 years in this house, I take pretty good care of it. And my lawn is partially also a garden. I had last year grown tomatoes there in front. And I have now some peppers that I'll be growing. and some tomatoes. And I also have clover, lots of clover, which I find much prettier than having a boring grass. But with my hand mower, sometimes some blades of grass stay up. So it's not perfectly green and even as the lawns that are mowed by a noisy gas-powered lawnmower. It's annoying. It's annoying because you're interfering with my constitutional rights under the Fourth Amendment to enjoyment of my property. I grew up in a communist country, and my dad had fruits in front of our house. There was no mowing, there were no lawns, and nobody came after us. And you know, I did not expect that in a free America where private property is respected, that somebody would come and harass me because they don't like the way I prefer my backyard. I'm not going to mow it because I'm doing an experiment in preventing the storm sewer overflow. I'm also about to finish the book called Aqua that hopefully will prevent this insanity that is going on with MSD. $4 billion cost of digging underground tunnels and passing the cost of sewer to the water consumers. You are already paying twice as much for your water as you did 10 years ago. And it's going to go tenfold of that unless we stop it. So please leave me alone. That's all I want. And I want to get back my materials so that I can finish this replacing part of my leaking roof. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Chris,
Is there anyone else?
is there anything?
We obviously, and I know Mr. Gould can attest to this, Ms. Mullock's property is a nuisance no different than the nuisances that are on the resolution this evening. If everyone conducted an experiment, we might as well eliminate the nuisance provision from the Ohio Revised Code.
Well,
And-
because we have to enforce the law.
Well, right, and to say that it's not affecting the neighbors, I would disagree. That it's rodent harborage, insects, noxious weeds, obviously affects neighbors. While I'm not objecting or disagreeing with her lifestyle, I am in the setting in which she's doing it. If she wanted to conduct that experiment, I would suggest a more rural setting with many more acres so that her experiment does not affect the immediate neighborhood. Someone obviously objects to it, or we wouldn't receive complaints. Additionally, her building materials from last year were removed because they were considered junk and debris under the nuisance provisions. While she may disagree with that, and we have documentation to show that they were sitting on the property for many years on end. It wasn't just several months. It was probably in excess of 2 years that property has been sitting on her property for this proposed project. So while I'm not here to object to her particular lifestyle, I am here to say that what she's doing is in direct violation of the nuisance provision in the Ohio Revised Code, and therefore we're enforcing on her property no differently than we are on the properties that we do every month under the nuisance provisions. So,
Okay, thank you. And we have to follow the law as well. And
I would like to respond to that. As far as I know, I've spoken to all my neighbors, and nobody had called anybody from the township to object to what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, when the transformer blew up last year, all my neighbors were envious because I didn't have to worry about my burnt out appliances, which happen in my block. So everybody had several months dealings with insurance companies because the Duke Energy had hired incompetent people and they caused the blow up of a transformer. So as far as this code goes, it's very arbitrarily applied. until a few months ago, there was an old rusted car just 80 feet from my house that had bushes growing underneath that certainly had caused much nuisance and possible lowering of real estate value. Plus, as I told you, I've seen hookers on Galbraith and Winton Road, which never happened before, which decreases the property values. It's not my imperfectly mown grass in front that is decreasing the property values. As a matter of fact, I'm inviting all of you to come and see my house. You'll see it has nice bushes, it has flowers, and it looks pretty nice. In the back, I like to have long grass, and I do have some wood, some kindling wood for the next year, because I use logs to warm my house when I feel like to in the winter. So this excuse that I'm violating some code is a bogus excuse. It's arbitrary application because you are not applying it equally to all the citizens. And I really suggest that you return those. If you had destroyed them, then go and buy me new ones, because that's what I need.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the trustees? Seeing that, yes.
Jim Faber, 865 Finney Trail, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45224. And my question was, I was looking on your website, and you have a proposed plan for Water Park. And I noticed, according to the drawing, it looks like my house would be, is within the plan of the plan. And I was wondering, was that plan going to occur, or?
Your address is 8065 Finney Trail?
Yes.
I don't know.
865.
Oh, 865,
865.
yes.
865.
865.
Jim, the plans that are in, that are on the website, or if it's the one that I'm thinking of, is very conceptual in nature. There is no definitive plan. In fact, we don't have a developer's agreement just at this time. We're in the process of working on that. I think it's a valuable asset for the community, and I think it can be a catalyst for a lot of great change. But there is no specific, there's really no specific use, no specific, criteria by which it's going to be developed at this point. We're working on that, but it's very conceptual in nature, and we've had over the years numbers of different designers, developers, architects say these are things that could possibly be, but what it will be, we don't know.
Oh, okay, so there's no eminent domain sort of thing?
No.
On the works,
No.
okay. That's all, I was just kind of surprised when I saw.
I know what you're talking about, and there was one
Yeah, it was like
designer.
a series of, there was like 6 pretty good-sized buildings shown and 2 of them extended out.
Go up towards Galbraith Road and
Well, it comes up right across St. Vivian's Church, that's
Right.
right. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Mr. Faber, what you can also
very conceptual.
okay.
do is, if you have any additional questions about that, you can meet with Mike and go over those conceptual plans, and he'd be more than happy to sit down with you and just walk you through those and answer any other additional questions that you have, too.
Oh, okay. Well, that's my question, was eminent domain
No.
likely very
comfortable.
soon,
No.
Okay.
No, it is not.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Hi, Ann, how are you?
I'm fine. Anna Fields, 1962 Fallbrook Lane. I'm requesting that you reschedule the meeting that was postponed with our civic
We
association.
are going to be doing that. We've been in touch
Okay.
with your president.
He
Mr.
told us September or October, but he didn't tell us a definite.
We haven't finalized any definite dates until we speak with you, with the club, with Mr.
Okay.
Puccini.
Okay, then. Well, hopefully we'll get it done soon.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing that there's no one else that wants to participate in the meeting and speak with us, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. And before we adjourn, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming to our meeting this evening and spending a few hours with us, as well as becoming more and better informed about the waste information and also any other issues that are happening and occurring in our community. So thank you for spending a few hours with us this evening. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.